Another episode of Stop Being Cheap on Yourself. Invest in yourself. But today we got into some SPY calls and SPY puts. A lot of people asked me about why we got into these specific trades, so let's go over the trade. Let's start off with the Discord. So I posted today at 11:10. SPY has a rising wedge, which you can see there, right here. And a rising wedge is technically a bearish formation. It would have been a perfect entry if SPY would have entered around this area for the ultimate contraction of this wedge, and then a breakdown below, coming back down to test these levels. So I tell them SPY rising wedge, contracting, looking to short on a breakdown or near the top of the wedge, which would be the perfect entry. So we go to SPY. This was the chart for the day. And on the 5-minute chart, you see the wedge. I think on the 1-minute chart as well. So we see this happen. We already had all these levels plotted from prior. And if you look at the 5-day 5-minute chart, this was a zone, a 5-minute zone. So I like to keep them different colors just so that I know which levels are critical. The white lines are the daily support and resistance lines, and that's why you can see that we reacted off of it pretty well, and we bounced off of that because daily levels are always more important than an intraday level, and that's why a lot of people don't understand. They're trading like 5-minute, supply and demand zones, and then they're like, what happened? But it's only something to play around with for a short period of time. So if you're trading 5-minute supply and demand zones, you're basically scalping. You could get huge returns, but it probably wasn't in the plan to begin with. But here you can obviously see we went from one level to another level perfectly. You see we come down and we bounced right off of this level. So this was all put inside of the chat before it even happened. So if you look at here, we go over the exact trade. We said we'll take it if it breaks down beneath. And then we entered the options by open 347 put 3.5, and I showed the chart, and this is exactly what happened, and I sold it for 37% gain in total. And then we also spoke about it and walking through the members through the exact trade as it's going on, so they understand what's going on. So SPY playing out as we anticipated. Let's see. After it broke down with that wedge, it came down. And look at how it reacts to these previous zones. We get a bounce here and we're like trying to break below. Then we break below, we retest, come back down, retest again, and then I think we ended up at like 352 or 350 something at the end of the day. But this is the trade. Same pattern formed again. If you look here, rising wedge right back into the supply zone, and it comes right back down into demand. So supply and demand works. For you guys who asked about the trade, I also combined this with the callsorputs.com option suite platform so that I could verify my trades. I entered SPY because on the golden sweep platform, QQQ had a golden call sweep, and knowing the lockdowns that happened recently, I didn't want to get into a QQQ put when news like that could affect it and bring it higher than what it is. Kind of like if you're playing SPY to the downside and then you're trying to play Zoom to the downside, but then you have the news about the pandemic. Zoom might go up even though SPY's coming down. So you want to make sure you're choosing the right ETF or even the right stock to play, because a lot of the times people don't think about the whole picture, and in trading, the whole picture is the most important picture, because that's where you're going to get, your most important information, and that's where you're going to become successful. What else is there to talk about? This was one of the trades. Snapchat, exact same thing. We went over this in the chat room as well. Over here. So he asked about, I think he asked about the trade, and I said, watch down on SPY. So exact same pattern, rising wedge, and then we get a break below, which correlated with the market, and then we ended up doing a huge move down. And Snap was overbought to begin with. So seeing this type of formation, you're pretty much for certain that this would work out. And you can see over here that we drew the intraday, was it 5 minute? Yeah, the 5 minute supply over here. And before it broke out, before it broke down, I told him to watch this level. So I drew that line on top. And then he said if it goes past 41.68 to quit. I said watch that level, rejects off perfectly, and then it ends up just coming back down. So these things work. Sometimes you have to let the play out accordingly. Sometimes it could go a little above, and that's why I don't like trading intraday levels, because sometimes they will come a little up above, then come back down. Whereas like a daily, you're worrying about a daily close above or a daily close below instead of something like that. So that's it. Stop being cheap on yourself. Invest into yourself. And that's it. Have a good night, guys.